Now, what in the, I guess I want to say, entitled passenger is going on here? So, today we got to talk about a situation. There is a woman that made a boo boo. She made a mistake, the ultimate mistake, some may argue. She got left by the cruise ship, allegedly, that is. And even further, she decided to post her actions on the most reputable source in all of the internet, TikTok. Now, I'm going to show you guys the clip, and I say allegedly in this situation because we all know that on social media platforms like TikTok, for example, you got a lot of people that would do essentially anything for a little bit of clout, a little bit of attention, and 10 seconds of fame. However, whether it's fake or not, I do believe this is a important lesson that needs to be talked about here because with peak season, by that I mean spring coming up, there are going to be a lot of new cruisers, a lot of, well, to be honest with you, ignorant and very dumb cruisers that make a lot of mistakes and will potentially end up either turning into peer runners or just flat out get left by the cruise ship. By the way, before we dive into this juicy morsel of news, I have to address the cruise ship in the room. Some of you are probably wondering, or maybe you're not, you don't care, why am I wearing this goofy hat here? Well, I am getting ready to head to the frozen tundra of Antarctica. I have a 9-day cruise on a luxury cruise ship with Atlas Oceans, and I will be documenting the experience, of course, on my other channel, Jay the Nomad. Make sure you follow. If you guys want early access to those videos, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as low as $2 a month. And of course, I will have a review after the cruise has concluded on this particular channel. It's going to be a cold one for this one, guys, an expensive one too. We're talking about in the range of negative 35 degrees plus. Last time I experienced this was when I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, working for the Harlem Globetrotters. This cruise is not sponsored, by the way. I paid for it out of my own pocket for myself and my girlfriend Lauren in the price range so far of about $12,000. So best believe I'm going to get the most content out of this as possible. So make sure you guys follow that adventure. I leave out today. I got Miami today, and then tomorrow I head over to Argentina for 4 days, and then my 9-day expedition over to Antarctica. So make sure you guys check that out and follow my other channel, Jay the Nomad. So just for context here, in these video clips that I'm going to show you, I have 2 of them. It shows a woman on TikTok that is allegedly getting left by a celebrity cruise ship, and she ain't too happy about it. She uses some naughty sailor language. I am going to have to unfortunately bleep that out. YouTube's been getting crazy with all of the demonetizations on the videos. I'll show you that. And then after, she allegedly flew over to the next port where the ship is and got on, and she didn't really seem too apologetic about the situation. Anyway, here's the clips.
What in the am I supposed to do? I'm literally stuck on the island.
So getting left by a cruise ship is arguably either one of the biggest fears for cruise ship passengers that are hanging out in cruise ports like Cozumel and St. Kitts and Nassau, Bahamas, or it's just one of the biggest sins, one of the biggest screw-ups you could ever have while sailing on board a cruise ship. I do believe that, yes, it is a combination of both, depending on your personal situation. There are times where it may not be the passenger's fault, but I want to say that's probably slim to none that actually happens. Usually if somebody is left by a cruise ship or they end up becoming an infamous pier runner where they have to hurry up and run to the ship before it leaves them behind, usually it is the passenger's fault. There is no doubt about it. Now, just looking at this particular situation here, this girl is saying, well, WTF, a celebrity, because she got left. The ship is far off into the distance, which if this is true, it just makes me believe that she came like at least an hour and a half late. So what was she doing in that point in time? Did she book an excursion? Did she just get a little, too intoxicated, have too many margaritas? Was that the situation? Either way, there is absolutely no excuse for it, because when it comes to booking any excursion of any kind, you have to use your own due diligence, go to the reputable sources, and this is something that I'm going to bring up in this video. So with spring break literally right around the corner, starting on March 20th of this month, it is going to be an undeniable fact. You're going to have a lot of wild people on cruise ships, a lot of people cruising for the first time, and, well, they aren't going to be too bright when it comes to cruise etiquette and logic. Some people are going to believe that they are the kings and queens of the cruise ship, and the cruise ship will not leave without them. Well, yes, it will. Guys, if you decide to be irresponsible in the cruise ports, when you are told 500 times what time the ship is leaving and it's ship time and you aren't going to be a responsible adult and you end up almost getting left or getting left by the cruise ship, it falls on you. It is a 100% your fault unless something happens to the event that you end up in the hospital, whatever the case may be. And this is why you always have somebody with you whenever you go into these ports if you don't know what you are doing. By this, I mean you should have a dependability buddy, somebody you should depend on in the event something goes wrong, they can contact the cruise line and make sure the proper steps are taken to ensure that if you are left by the cruise ship, insurance decides to step in, or the proper authorities, government, cruise lines, whoever, can make sure you either get to the next port, or that you are home safely, or that you simply get the care that you need in a responsible manner. On the other side of that, well, there are multiple sides to this situation. The cruise lines would typically tell you that you should book an excursion. They'll highly encourage you book an excursion through them because they use it under the somewhat fear guise that you can get left by the cruise ship. While this is somewhat true, most of you know me, I always believe that you should have the greatest experience possible, and maybe if you can, save a little bit of money. As somebody that has worked on cruise ships and that sails constantly, I can tell you guys right now, there are plenty of places that you can go to book an excursion away from the cruise line where you can save money and not have to worry about getting left by the cruise ship. For example, if you are getting off of a cruise ship and you go right into the dock, the port over in that area, typically the people there are pretty responsible, otherwise they wouldn't have attained that spot in order to be able to book passengers right off of the ship. I look at a cruise ship as like an airport, except the restrictions may vary and depend depending on where you are, but you will typically be safe, and the people that are handling all these excursions, these tours, whatever it is that you're doing, they are responsible because they know full well one slip up will cost them potentially their entire business. However, looking at this from another angle, I will say that if you are not used to cruising, it's your first time, then maybe you should just play it safe and book with the cruise line if you have no idea what you're doing. If you're gonna go get in some random taxi and he's gonna show you the island and whatnot, and the cab isn't in the best quality of shape and there's a chance that it might break down, well, you could be screwed in the sense that you're gonna get left by the ship, or you're gonna have to just kind of have some anxiety attack getting back to the ship hoping that you get there on time. You do not want that. If it's your first time, maybe play it safe. If you know what you're doing, then yes, you can afford to take a little bit more risk because you know that if something should go wrong, you have the right measures in place, or at least you know what to do, you know who to call. Like for me, I got plenty of friends over in Cozumel. Should something go wrong, and say, hey, could you come pick me up and we are going to be good. So many people do not have those privileges and opportunities and connections in order to make all of that happen should they have a problem. Also, here's another thing that some of you may or may not have thought about. If you get left by the cruise ship, you technically have about 3 options. One, if the cruise has not concluded and it is not going back to the home port in which you originally sailed out of, you can fly over to the next available port. You can fly home and just call it a day and say, hey, I messed up. Let me go ahead and go home and I'll retrieve my bag at the port, the home port that the ship is going to be returning back to. Or you can go to the embassy. Usually there is a representative every port whenever the ship is departing. That way you have somebody to talk to. But things can go wrong if you do not have a passport. You don't got a passport. You got to think of it from this perspective. Let's say, for example, you are going from Cozumel, Mexico over to the Bahamas. These are 2 different countries. You cannot simply just jump on a plane because you missed the ship and fly without a passport. From there, you got to go to the U.S. Embassy. It becomes a very expensive problem for you. Well, let's face it, it's probably going to be somewhat expensive either way to jump from one island or cruise port to another cruise port. But you get my point here. Always have your passport in the event that stuff like this happens, because if you didn't, well, you are going to have a bad time. Cutting to the chase, for many of you, this is something that you already know, and I sound like a broken record here because I've talked about this numerous times on this channel, or it's annoying because you guys, like I said, have already heard this type of information. But believe it or not, there are a lot of people here that are looking up cruise information because they're taking their first spring break cruise, their booze cruise, whatever you want to call it, and they don't have the etiquette, they don't have the knowledge to understand exactly how it works. I will make it nice and simple for all of you. You are not special. You are not going to get some type of special treatment because you booked a $1,000 or $500 or $12,000, $70,000 cruise. It does not matter. The cruise line, the cruise ship will leave you and have no regrets in doing so, because that little bit of money that you think is a lot of money is absolutely nothing to them. Moral of the story, don't miss the cruise ship. It's going to cause you a headache. It'll cause the cruise lines a headache with all the paperwork they also have to fill out. It's not okay. Just don't do it. Either way, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section below. Of course, like I said, make sure you go follow my other channel, Jay the Nomad, for all of my live action videos that I will be putting out. I actually got another one today of my Super Mario World theme park tour and all that stuff. Make sure you guys go check out my other channel, Jay the Nomad. As usual, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and know that I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for watching this, well, somewhat repetitive video for all of you that have continuously watched my videos. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.